Welcome to Lipany! And today, spawning on the west side of the map in yellow, we've got Baldamus Maximus, also known as Demu, playing as the Ottomans. And his opponent today on the east side of the map in red, we've got Revain playing as the Holy Roman Empire. Welcome everyone to this Age of Empires forecasted game on Lipany. A map which, well, we've come to know and, for a long time dislike, to be honest with you, because it hasn't been on the rank ladder for a long time for good reason. And it's because of the spawn. It's often very bugged, and I can't say it's particularly fair today either. Although it's not about fairness, actually. It's actually kind of okay with the sacred sites. It's just they're very awkwardly spawned, right? Because, with the map the way it is, like a single wall from this wood line to this wood line would protect it for Revain. Maybe from this cliff edge to this wood line would protect it for Demu. So, even though we don't have like a Delhi Sultanate here on this map, today the sacred sites could play a big role in this match, and I wouldn't be surprised because of just the spawn and the way it is. But anyway, we're talking about the Holy Roman Empire and the Ottomans today. An interesting civilization matchup. Both civilizations recently have been going through sort of a fast imperial phase, going crazy with the fast imperial builds, which, people like Aussie Drongo have kind of put out there, and it's been doing pretty well for a lot of civilizations. Matchups anyway, with the Ottomans, but you do have to scout it out. It's very punishable in many ways, so I don't think we really expected to see it in sort of high level, like this sort of level in terms of gameplay. Obviously, Demu and Revain, some of the best players in the world of Age of Empires 4, and I suspect it's going to be more aggression here, especially from the part of the Ottomans. That's what they do really well, especially with the military school, free units coming out of there. But it doesn't always have to be the case because, of course, the Ottomans can go for a two-town centre play. We've seen it recently in sort of EGC tournaments where the Ottomans, they can play a bit of greed against some civilizations, and they can get away with it because they get free units. They don't necessarily have to train units, and they can kind of escalate that resource that they would usually spend on units to build up their economy. The Holy Roman Empire, speaking of economy, now these guys do it like no other. The prelate boosting up villagers' gathering speed by 40%. Absolutely huge. And I think for a long time, I really do think the HRE are incredibly strong in that regard. And, well, we'll see if Revain can show how strong they will be for the economy. Going up with the Archon Chapel means that it doesn't actually have to drop off, put a drop-off building here, because the Archon Chapel will take care of that. No lumber camp needed just yet. But certainly an interesting state of affairs on this map and this civilization matchup. Actually being a bit more defensive with the spear, hasn't rallied it forward, which is a bit of a surprise. You kind of really want to pressurize the HRE a lot in the early game because, of course, one thing that they have done in the past a lot is a fast castle into getting those relics. It could be an option here for Revain. You've got to be careful with that, though, because if there's a civilization that can punish that pretty well, it's kind of the Ottomans. The Mongols can be one, English could be another. But the Ottomans are no slouches in the feudal age. It's going to be the twin minaret madrasa for Demu. It's going a little bit later than expected, maybe. 3.5 minutes already on the clock. I guess it's expected because of the military school opening. So that does often delay the feudal age timing for the Ottomans. Speaking of feudal age, well, the HRE are now there in that feudal age. And the prelate garrisoning inside that Archon Chapel. It's a bit of an awkward spawn here for the HRE. You love to see like the HRE getting the Archon Chapel on like gold and wood if they can, or at least 2 key resources. Obviously you generally get the food anyway because you want to get it close to your town centre, but he's only got the wood today, I'm afraid, being inspired, but that doesn't stop him from training another prelate potentially. He's actually opened up with a barracks, so going to get some man-at-arms on the field, which would do decently well against the Sipahi and archers that we might be expecting from the Ottomans. Now the Sipahi can decently do some work against them though, so it's an interesting state of affairs for the Ottomans, and I wonder whether that has been scouted. Well, he's going to scout it anyway with the spearmen. The man-at-arms comes out to take care of those spearmen. And, well, interesting opening here for the HRE. Now, what's really interesting is that the Ottomans are actually going out to stone. Now, this could be for one of 2 reasons. It could be for more military schools. It could be for a second town centre. Generally, probabilistically, we only often see the Ottomans open up with 1 town centre. So we shall see. Demu is very much a macro player in terms of like the style I've seen him play. He's incredibly strong in all sorts of ways of playing the Age of Empires 4, of course, because, you don't get to rank number 2 on the rank ladder by just spamming one type of gameplay. And so he's obviously very flexible in the way he can approach the games, but I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Demu out of many other players going for a second town centre. Even with the Ottomans, it could be a thing. Right, well, we see Revain just harassing a little bit, not really causing too much of an issue, just kind of bouncing back and forth, just always threatening to attack. But it's unlikely to really engage. Not with 3 spearmen. I think 3 spearmen can tank away pretty well, but against 2 man-at-arms. That changes things a little bit. I think you may have just got the upgrade. Yeah, he did get marching drills for the man-at-arms. Makes them a little bit more faster. Does push Demu off of gold. Now behind this, a farming transition pretty early, and I think this is kind of much to do with the civilization dynamic, right? I think it's an interesting one because like the HRE often do have to camp at home if they're going for a sort of a castle age build, especially against the Ottomans, where the Ottomans can be aggressive. But today it seems like Demu's actually playing for a second town center, and because of that, it does feel like it's a missed opportunity to go out onto Deer, right? Because the HRE, I mean, they chew through food incredibly fast, so having a food transition, a farm transition is important. But I mean, he could be possibly taking the Deer camp if he wanted to. Does have that ability. He's got the man-at-arms. He's actually also got double barracks, and he's producing from both of them as well. So I'm pretty surprised to see the farming transition. Because kind of like, well, he's being aggressive, he's macroing, spending a lot of wood for those farms as well. Well, he could have just be going out to Deer. Because he should be pretty confident that he's got map control, especially with double barracks opening. But we'll see. I don't know if he's quite scouted. Actually, he probably has scouted now the second town centre. If he hasn't already, he will now. He's getting pushed back though. I think this is quite clearly a detail that Demu is paying attention to. He wants to protect that stone, right? He doesn't want to give that vision away. I'm not so sure if whether revain has actually spotted that at all yet. All right, well, behind all of this, it's just still one town centre for the HRE. We do sometimes see them go for 2 town centres themselves, rather, but not today. Not today. Revain going to play this as 1 town centre. Probably look for that fast castle. Got a decent number of villagers on food and gold. There's that second military school and the archery edge. You can see the building up of the base there. Looking to get a blacksmith there, no doubt. Their demo, just to increase the production speed of these buildings. Right, well, I hope you guys have been enjoying the casted content on the channel recently. I certainly have been enjoying Age of Empires 4. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving. But one last call for a support if you can. If you do enjoy the content, and if you do watch regularly, I mean, if you're not really that fan of the content, to be honest, you probably wouldn't be watching this far along. But if you are generally a fan of the content, I would recommend subscribing to the channel, but more importantly, hitting that notification bell. So that if you'd like to see more casted games, more content like this, then, well, you know, you'd be well placed to do that. You get the notifications when I do post, which is pretty much daily at the moment. I think I'm going to try and keep that up if I can. The main thing I'm looking to do really is to find good games to cast, right? Because I think the big thing is that if you're going to spend half an hour, 40 minutes watching a casted game, it better be a good one, right? You don't want to waste that kind of time when you could be doing something else. I know a lot of people are busy these days, of course. You want to watch the best games, the highlight games, I think. Not the standard run-of-the-mill ones where you kind of know what's going to happen. So I do usually kind of hand-pick the games. I kind of look to see some statistics about the games beforehand. I don't necessarily find out what's happening because obviously that ruins the fun. I don't really like to know what's happening beforehand. It kind of, you know, I want to be surprised too. It's about having some fun casting games and enjoying it. And also theory crafting. I love talking about the strategy and seeing if this actually is something that happens or not. And it is a fast castle in the end for Revain, going up with the Regnus Cathedral. And I think this is being allowed to happen really by Demu. Like, he's not really punishing this too much, and he can't really because he's got the second town center, you know, focusing on the macro. So he may look to punish this a little bit later, but the timing is going to be such that maybe Revain might be able to get some relics, and that's something you don't really want to let the HRE do as much as possible, you know. You really want to contest those relics, especially with the Regnus Cathedral, which boosts up the gold income by 100%. It's really significant. You just can't ignore that. But I think generally the man-at-arms play is very interesting here for Revain. We don't see this all that often. We often do see stable units just to get the mobility, but I think he's just conscious of the fact that there's Sipahi on the field. He needs to be careful not to lose a scout, Revain. Scouting information is so key, and the man-at-arms do come and back him up. And he does back away. So there's that castle age. That does give the opportunity now for Revain to get some more prelates from the Regnus Cathedral. That should be able to pick up a couple of relics or two. Bit of engagement in the middle. I think Demu was just trying to, you know, put a bit of pressure on. I would love to see Iron Undermesh coming in for Revain because there's clearly a couple of archers being invested too. Does get the scout. And that's actually pretty huge for the information that Revain will now not have. He's going to just back away and just cause some pressure. I like what Revain's doing, right? He's got the man-at-arms upgrade. And he's going to pressurize Demu, right? He's going to have to make sure that Demu brings his army back home. He's going to try and get some villagers if he can. But this is all a bit of a distraction. Because behind all of this, really what Revain wants to do, he wants to pick up those relics. So that's really what this is all about. It's not so much getting damage, which he might even do anyway. Picks off one village, which is great. Might get a second if he just... No, I don't think he will. I mean, he might just dive this, to be fair. Oh, gets away with that one there. That HP on that villager was pretty low. That's going to get rid of these villagers that are trying to come out to that berry patch. And he does have wheelbarrow Demu, so that will certainly help. But this is a bit risky here. I'm not sure where... I mean, he should... Wait, what is the movement speed? He's going to 1.29 versus 1.12. Okay, so they do technically move faster than Man-at-Arms, so the Man-at-Arms can't chase. Unless they start charging, then it could potentially catch up. He needs to get out of there. Now, these are castle age units, but there's no iron undermesh. Hello, Revain. My dude, get out of there. That's a bit unfortunate. He's losing like 2-3 Man-at-Arms for absolutely nothing. That's a bit rough. And I think now this is a fight that Demu can take. He's got enough Sipahi as a front line. Got a couple of spearmen as well with archers to back that up. And Revain's unit control is not... I don't think he means this. Does he? Like, I don't know about this dive. Like, there's no way he wins this fight. But again, we talked about how this is not necessarily to cause damage. It's maybe just to buy time to get those relics, right? So he's got a couple of relics already. As I said that, he's picked up 2, but not deposited any just yet. He's always a bit slow to the mark there for some reason, Revain. I don't know what's going up with that, but there's the blacksmith. They're going to get some upgrades soon. It does have a decent number of units on the field. Now, behind this, Demu does have 2 town centers, right? So this is a bit concerning for Revain, because the 2 town centers obviously means the economy is going to be a bit stronger, which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because you don't really often associate the Ottomans as having a stronger economy than the HRE, but, well, it's certainly an interesting match. Different one, for sure, than we normally expect. The Sipahi are just going to head northwards, and Man-at-Arms semi-chasing. The horseman getting caught on loan without his comrades. Here come the Man-at-Arms now, though, trying to chase up. The good thing for the Ottomans, they've definitely got the mobility that the HRE don't quite have right now, even with marching drills. It's been difficult for Revain to get across the map. Now, I would like to see just some palisades here for Revain, because when you're on the back foot like this with the Ottomans just mobilizing everywhere, you really want to kind of narrow the approach for the Ottomans to do damage. And the entry points to the base, which he hasn't been able to do just yet, and he's lost a villager, maybe loses a second. And these guys really dive in. I mean, he's not using the Fortitude ability. We saw in a recent casted game the power of the Fortitude. It gains that 50% attack speed. It does mean that they're a bit more prone to melee damage. There's no real melee damage that can come up to them, though. Because, you know, the Man-at-Arms, you can just run away from them. So it would be nice to see Fortitude being used a bit more with the Sipahi. Here are Man-at-Arms coming westwards, just to harass that gold again. Could get some value if Demu's not paying attention. But that is the question, will he pay attention? Now he's up to the car stage, we'll get those free siege engines in the form of mangonels. He does spot it out, actually. He was probably just redistributing villagers onto the gold, and then he noticed it. Gets that sacred site in the middle though, Revain, or I should say in the south, to be fair. And but the Sipahi will decamp that, of course. Villagers coming out to gold again. I think really Revain would do well to try and deny the gold for as long as possible. Just deny those gold units coming out. Sipahi might charge in. Archers on the back line. He does have Steeled Arrow looking to get Iron Undermesh himself here, Demu, which is interesting because there's no real ranged units or threat coming out for Revain. But it might help him dive the TC a little bit, though, with the Sipahi to get some raiding value. But a lot of villagers on gold there. 15. Maybe overcompensating a little bit just to make sure he gets enough gold to extract. Although having said that, it does look like he's got a fair few production buildings. So could potentially get some crossbows, some knights out. I wouldn't be surprised to see crossbows because, of course, he is against Man-at-Arms, of course. But there is another unit I'd like to talk about for the Ottomans, and I think it's a really strong unit at the moment. They've gone through some recent buffs and some changes and some improvements, and it's the Janissary. Like, it's a very particular unit. It's very situational dependent, and it's so good at dealing with enemy cavalry. And I think the reason why this is such a good unit is because it forces your opponent into a certain way of playing. As we just see a little bit of a raid there coming in with some villagers being harassed, but the spy do back off. And I mean, you know, Revain will be safe now. Does have an outpost with the relic inside, which will do the job of a palisade wall, to be fair. You don't really want to run into that as the Ottomans. But as I was saying, yep, the Janissary, very strong situational unit. It forces your opponent into less cavalry, because if they go for cavalry, they just get shredded. And I think that's something that's interesting in this match so far, that Demu has done really well to force Revain into like kind of immobile units, like infantry units that you can't really get onto across the map. And he's really kind of benefiting from that. Look at this, always cycling through. He's actually going to get through there and harass some more villagers on the wood line, possibly take 1 or 2. He didn't use a fortitude ability, but does get a villager nonetheless. And he's going to back off and take some damage. But again, there's no arrow slits on this thing, so... Bit of an unfortunate situation not to have that. But I certainly think just maybe a palisade wall from the wood line to the edge of the map here. It would solve a lot of problems for revain at the moment. He does have 4 relics, which is actually kind of bonkers when you think about it. I'm a little bit worried for the Ottomans. Having 4 relics as the HRE, it's super strong. Like, let's take a look at how much gold is coming in. 738 gold. He's not got a single villager on gold at the moment. He's kind of matching what Demu has, and Demu's got 17 villagers. Like, could you imagine just your civilization having 17 more villagers? Having said that, well, revain kind of needs those 17 more villagers because Demu is way, way ahead on that front. Almost, well, kind of double. 73 villagers to 47. Picks off those cavalry units that remained. But I would love to see some palisades and then push out from there. Because it just forces revain back home each time. Those couple of Sipahi. And he doesn't have the ability to just get on the map quickly. Does have a couple of lance connectors, so could try and force some fights if he could. Some close quarter fights, and that will do some damage. Going to get the sacred site in the middle here, Demu. Trying to get that extra gold coming in fairly soon. Right, well, he's going to be moving out to that secondary gold. Ran out of gold on the first one, of course. The other thing to talk about is actually gold. And how there are only other few deposits of gold on the map. Which I think both players need to start thinking about securing, right? We can see there is a villager for Demu on stone. Just constantly gathering a bit of stone. Just trickling it in. Maybe looking to get a keep at some point. There's no stone coming in, though, for revain. Which is a little bit of a concern. Because, you know, he wants to get a keep or two on strategic areas on the map. Before he misses out the opportunity. Now, there is a situation here where there are a couple of janissaries on the field. As you can see, they can actually also repair siege engines. And there is a technology I'd love to talk about, which is a level 2 Imperial Council bonus for the Ottomans. And it's called Siege Crews. We've seen a lot recently, siege being so important in Age of Empires 4, and I think there's no different here. Because the actual garrison siege, I mean, what Siege Crew does, it allows units to be garrisoned inside and... inside of siege units, of course. Infantry can go inside, and it boosts up the setup speed by 25%. So when they're moving around, they can just set up. As you see, you just set up there for a second, and increases that speed. It makes them fire off really quickly. Gets them into position, and then fire off super, super fast. Gets that lots of damage output. Okay, he's going to try and neutralize that middle sacred, or the south sacred site, really. It's kind of in the middle of the map, but it's the south one. Takes an engagement here. Demu might need to back away from that. Only Sipahi, chased by horsemen, and there's a lot of infantry coming in as well. But that's a big, massive choke point. This could be a bit of a bait. Demu might look to use his mangonel. That's exactly what he does. He might get a huge mangonel shot here. Revain has to be careful. He doesn't take the bait. He backs off for now. And you'd love to see that strategic movement of army, right? But he's gonna go through now. Well, Demu needs to be careful. Does he spot that? It doesn't unpack his... Yeah, unpacks. Imagine he had siege crews right there. That would have been great. Does have a mangonel himself, though, Revain. Matching like for like. He's got 2 mangonels now, though, Demu. We might see a massive fight on this deer pack. Well, what was a deer pack? Mangonel unloads. This could be a huge fight. Horseman going to dive in. With Janissaries. The thing is, Janissaries there for the Ottomans should do a lot of damage. Oh, the lance connector on the village is absolutely horrendous. There is a couple of mangonel shots here for Demu. Getting lots of value. But here's a mangonel for the HRE. And they're dishing out all sorts of damage. The mangonels, though, for the Ottomans still alive. Quite significantly. Lance connector killing so much. They're getting so close. There's so much splash damage coming out of there. The Janissaries holding firm. The Janissaries should be able to hold potentially. It's the lance connector. That's what's the big problem for the Ottomans. But the good thing is that the second mangonel has gone down for the Ottomans. So the HRE will be feeling a little bit more comfortable. But that is a huge fight. But there's one thing to note. Whilst the HRE might lose all their forces here to the Janissaries, there's something that's really, really changed. And if you haven't spotted it yet, it's the villager count. Check that out. We saw a lot of villagers dying there on the gold vein. 34 villagers killed in total so far in this match by the Holy Roman Empire. An absolute massacre. He lost the mangonels on the retreat, but boy oh boy, that second town center for the Ottomans, it did a lot of work for getting those resources, but he has equalized that villager count, Revain. It was a great fight for the HRE in many ways than one. In many, many ways. Because whilst he took out a lot of army, he also took out the economy units. And I think what's interesting is the thing that in these kind of fights, if you focus on villagers, it does put you at a disadvantage in the main fight. But with the lance connector, a couple of swings of those swords and it kills everything. So I think that's what really did a lot of damage. It was the lance connector in the end. But great fight nonetheless, and both players now do back off for a little while just to recover and recuperate. Maybe rebuild the forces just a tad. Getting the sacred site in the middle now and healing up those units with the imams there, the Ottomans. The good thing for Demu is that whilst he did lose a lot of villages, he can just kind of replace those quite nicely with the two town centres. Only one town centre for the HRE. Does have the option to go for the Palace of Swabia in the Imperial Age if he, decides the Imperial Age is the right thing for him. A couple of Sabahi coming in for Demu just to see what's happening. Won't get too much value. He's going to be chased away by the infantry, but it does have that movement speed on his side to get out of there. Movement speed of 1.75. When you compare it to the horsemen are a bit faster. Well, Revain just recovering now. Got 2 mangonels to his name. No siege here for Demu so far, although he does get them for free, so I suspect with something coming out soon, there is a mangonel. Got a lot of economy on the northwest with the deer pack, but that's going to be expiring soon, so we might see a bit of a hard farm transition. Does have a pack of 8 farms already. Might potentially go for berries. Well, not much to talk about. I love these moments because it does give me a time to just rest and think about what's going to happen next. Because you know what? It's kind of an interesting situation where the HRE could potentially go for the Imperial Age if he doesn't decide to keep pressurizing in the Castle Age. It does look like he's going to pressure in the Castle Age, to be fair. You can see that food count is constantly being spent. He's being harassed around the back now. The Lancers, hello, the Knights. Yeah, they do think about fighting again. The thing about Revain's situation is that he's only one town centre, right? So every villager he loses is actually really critical. And I'm a little bit concerned about his villager count, because eventually that better villager count for Demu and the Ottomans will really start to scale in military. But we do need to think about the Palace of Swabia. This is why I'm thinking that actually going to the Imperial Age might be a better option for the HRE. Like, he's got a strong standing army, but it's not a situation where he can just win the fight with this army, right? Because even if Demu loses his army, he should be able to replenish quite quickly. As long as he's got production buildings, because he's got a lot of villagers. That's just something that Revain can't match, right? If Revain loses his army, it's going to be a lot harder for him to replace it. So that situation, it kind of makes sense to go to the next stage just to get that tech up advantage. And the benefit with the Palace of Swabia, of course, is to get those villagers back up and running in numbers. It's down to 62 so far. Knights charging it. I like what Demu's doing, actually. Just with a handful of Sabahi, forcing Revain to keep up his army back at home. And the reason why that's so critical is that it means that Revain can't be thinking about being aggressive, right? And Demu knows that he's got 2 town centres. He knows that the HRE are on just 1 town centre. So when you factor that in your consideration, your calculations, you know that, well, if I've got 2 town centres, my opponent's got 1, chances are I'll be ahead in villages. So that the longer the game goes, the better position I should be in. Gonna send another group of Sabahi. This time he's going to go east. Maybe to take out that sacred site first and then push on from there. Alright, well, it's going to go past the berries, go straight through the middle. It's going to just peel off 1 or 2, just the 1 Sabahi, just to deactivate the sacred site, and now go into the middle of the map. Yeah, just constantly making sure that he's active with the army. Mangonels do get a couple of hits, but the Sabahi, in the end of the day, they don't get hit that badly. Spearmen chasing. Spy might just start to split off and kill some villagers if they can. And the crazy thing is that, well, Revain's killed 34 villagers. Demu's only killed 10, but just factoring that you have 2 town centres makes all that difference. Because Demu is a good few villages ahead. 30 villagers advantage. You do have to factor in the relic gold that's coming in nicely, but then they get free units for the Ottomans. It's taking engagement on that wood line with the horsemen there. Revain coming with a counter raid and getting huge value. Chasing the Sabahi though, with the infantry. It's going to take a while. The thing is that Revain leaves us something very exposed with, is the fact that the Janissary is always a threat from the Ottomans. Gonna try and torch down that mosque if you can, but here come the cavalry and with crossbows on the back line. The crossbows will do great against the knights. And the great thing about crossbows is that it deals with both the man-at-arms and the knights that the HRE have. Mangonels, 4 of them. Heading back home with his cavalry. But Demu trying to just sandwich those horsemen and knights with their janissaries if they can. But he backs away. But look at that military number, 101 for revain. It feels like he's got to do something with his military now because he is very far behind on economy. But he does always have that comeback mechanism with the Palace of Swabia. Going to get inspired warriors. Get those prelates active. There's so much idle time as well. 23 villages are idle just by a handful of Sipahi. The most of which have probably come out for free for the Ottomans. Starting to venture out into the middle of the map now. Wait a minute, what's going on? It's going to get some villages. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. It's not for a keep. Guys, it can't be for a keep. It doesn't have the stone for it. I think he's going to go for his Imperial Age landmark. He's going to go for the Elsbek Palace most likely, but it's an interesting choice. It's going to be the Istanbul Observatory for the Ottomans. I don't know how I feel about this. Certainly something different. He's going to go for the Elsbek Palace. This could be a big engagement. Mangonels for the Ottomans. Takes out a lot of the front line of the spearmen. Spearmen engage for the HRE against the Ottoman cavalry. Man-at-arms are trying to get involved, but they're a little bit far behind. Landscannons trying to get involved as well with a couple of springles on the back line there for both the Ottomans and the HRE. For Mangonels, for Ottomans might push all of this back. Oh, that's a lot of siege engines that just went down for the Ottomans. The Janissaries are trying to hold the line. Will they be able to? I'm not so sure. The Man-at-Arms chasing down, but the Mangonels are pretty slow to get there. The Janissary is backing off for now. A couple of imams there for the Ottomans, keeping those units alive and healthy, keeping them inspired. Now the HRE do go back. He's going to get the Elsbek Palace up nice and comfortably. And I like the positioning. Whilst I'm not necessarily a big fan of the choice, I feel like Palace Swabi just would be a little bit better. He's certainly wanting to cement his position in the game, right? He wants to give this a good throw of the dice. He wants to get this as a standing ground to attack from. And he does protect 2 sacred sites by doing this. That's the key bit of detail. Like, I think if he can get a keep on the other sacred site, the sacred site victory condition could be a thing. And look how many villages he has on stone now. It could be a real possibility. Demu on the back of this, getting another military score. Got that farming transition well underway. Yeah, certainly looks like he might be going for that sacred site victory potential here. Look at those beautiful farms for the HRE. A lot of these are inspired as well with 40% gather speed from the Ark and Chapel. But there should be a lot of gold coming in for revain. Like when you factor in 4 relics and about to be 2 sacred sites. And the concern is that super late game. There's a unit that I often fear against playing, like when you're up against the Ottomans. And it's the Great Bombard. Is such a strong unit. The reason why it's so strong as well, when you factor in the fact that he's getting he's going to be able to get Janissaries there. As you can see, he's getting Janissary guns, so you can see a clear tech up into that. Now, multiple Janissaries, if they can get with those bombards, they can heal the bombards, they can repair them, but also they can garrison inside to get siege crews working. As we said earlier, that actually increases the attack and setup speed by 25%. So it's not just the fact they set up 25% faster, it's also they attacked 25% faster. And when you factor in as well the Great Bombard, the amount of damage it does is incredible, but also it does splash damage. So the reason why I think that combination of army is so strong for the Ottomans, Janissary and Bombard, is because what this does, like the Janissaries force the enemy into non-cavalry units, or at least try to dictate that terms. And if your opponent goes for non-cavalry units, well, what do they go for? They go for infantry. But then they're met up with bombards. Great bombards that do splash damage, and with siege crew, they attack 25% faster, and they unpack 25% faster. So it's super tough to deal with. I think maybe as the HRE, one option could be going for infantry and culverins, with the culverins trying to snipe as many of the bombards as possible, and that allows the infantry to do their job. But we'll have to see. It does have 1 culverin so far. I think this is definitely the right move, definitely the right push for a revain, a step in the right direction. And he's now going to activate the northern sacred site. I would have loved to have seen him do this a little bit earlier, because don't forget, he is behind on economy, right? So the longer this game goes, the better chance that Demu just has the ability just to overwhelm his opponent. Like, if Demu loses his army, it doesn't matter. He can just make it again. As long as he doesn't get completely overrun, of course. With one big push, but it's looking unlikely. We'll have to see. 1 or 2 big fights could change everything, especially when you've got units like the Lance Connector that can really dish out damage in a close quarters fight. There's that Sacred Site timer. Demu just walling up, making sure that he narrows the angles for attack. And I think this is a really nice way that Demu plays the game. Like, you can see he clearly values mobility and speed and the element of surprise. He's peeling off a couple of Sipahi rather on the east side. These guys are elite now, by the way. They look so good with their wings. Backing off. Revain here has to back off to the that Sacred Site and just try and deny this little bit of a raiding attempt coming in. So I do like the Owlsback Palace and the fact that it's got 50% attack, 50% health. But honestly, I feel like the Owlsback Palace at the moment isn't the best landmark. I think because the HRE can do a couple of other things to try and get a better, stronger bonus in terms of boosting buildings, right? They can always make a town center closer to the keep, and then they can take advantage of emergency repairs. That's really strong. This is, I mean, to be fair, you could probably do this with the Owlsback Palace as well, actually. That could be a nice way just to cement that position, because it does look like Sacred Site victory could be the win condition for him. I think at this point he's probably too far back in terms of economy to really, like, to win the game that way. Unless he takes one crazy fight, but it remains to be seen. Now, we talked about how gold is important and how you want to kind of get hold of their strategic areas. I think not denying this area, Revain, is a bit of a mistake. He had a lot of map control for a long time, and Demu now has this secured nicely with the stone walls and the keep. Like, this 8,000 gold is absolutely huge. This could be the difference between what wins the game and what loses the game, because of course gold is what Ottomans need. HRE are pretty much got gold in abundance, you know, with the relics and the sacred sites. So gold isn't necessarily a big problem for him. Does have 16 villages on gold, but it's gathering 1,500 gold per minute. When you factor in that Demu's got 800 gold coming in with 42 villages on gold. Granted that that rate is increasing now because it just takes some time for that to readjust. Here comes a bit of an engagement, a couple of Sipahi, which are probably free going northwards this time. Man-at-Arms going to try and chase down the best they can, but they're too slow, really. Oh, just sneaking away a Sipahi. Oh, he needs to send some units there, Revain. I'm not sure if he spotted that. He doesn't need to send his whole army. He will spot it now. It gets the notification. Does need to deny that. Oh, the Sipahi backs away. And it is what it is. Everyone's upgrading everything in the blacksmith. You can see incendiary arrows. I feel like Demu, what his approach is now, is it's going to wait for the time to go down. He's going to build up his army as much as he possibly can. Get the production and then just zerg his way through, right? And if you're not aware of StarCraft 2, it's when you kind of just spam units and just overwhelm your opponent. But we see the first great bombard coming out. Going to start working on the Owlsback Palace. The amount of damage this thing does is incredible. It's lovely to see as well. The attack animation. Does he have something garrisoned inside though? Does he have siege crews? I'm not so sure. Anyway, factor in the fact that he's got the meta as well, increasing the attack speed by 15%. Add in siege crew, another 25% to the actual attack speed, and also reload, not the reload time, but the setup time. It makes it a big force. I would have loved to have seen a relic garrison inside the Owlsback Palace. It doesn't happen. The bombards, 4 of them, gonna unleash hell, but here comes a big fire. Covering just one of them only for the HRE. Mangonels deploy. They take a huge shot on those Janissaries. The HRE getting huge value from the Mangonels. The Ottomans have to be careful. The Lance Connector getting close. You might lose a lot of siege here, Demu. Another massive Mangonel shot on the infantry. Janissaries losing so much of their health to the Mangonels, but all the Mangonels have been going down. There are 4 of those Springalds working heavily and hard there for the Ottomans. The infantry, though, going to start to overwhelm a little bit. 2 bombards still living. They do have that splash damage, but they will be going down eventually. That's a lot of units that have just been taken apart there. The Ottomans are struggling. They have to back off for now. Has only 18 units remaining on the field. This is Revain's opportunity to win the game, you feel. He's got to put some pressure. The trouble for Revain, he doesn't have any siege. He doesn't have any trebuchets. Doesn't have any bombards of his own. And even if he did, those siege for the Ottomans would have taken care of them. The 4 Springalds got so much value. He's going to try and body block as much as he can with the Janissaries. Try to keep the Springalds alive for as long as possible. Here come the Man-at-Arms and the crossbows for the Holy Roman Empire. They're diving in a little bit too far deep, I think. That does take another Springled out, but at this point, he can't do any some sort of everlasting damage now. Does have to back off and maybe just recuperate, rebuild. Needs to be careful not to lose that culverin. It's pretty unprotected there. Revain is down to 27 military. He lost a lot. He took a great fight, but then maybe dived in a little bit too deep. Maybe he overextended a little bit when he possibly didn't have to, because he has activated the Sacred Site timer. Possibly he needs to just defend his position. Maybe repair that Elsbeck Palace. He did lose that culverin in the end. We see a Rebaldaquin pop out here for Baldamus Maximus, aka Demu. Now the thing is, I don't think we see siege crews just yet, which is an interesting one. Does have the Istanbul Observatory, which actually should increase the amount of Imperial Council points he can have access to, if I'm not mistaken. Well, the spy just going to drag away a couple of units. Again, you can just see Demu always trying to keep active with his units. But Revain does have a win condition here. 4 minutes on the clock. This could be his opportunity. The trouble is, we talked about how Demu can replace his units a little bit easier. And I wonder whether that will be the downfall, because you can just take out the resources there on the top. Demu's got 4,000 food, 1,000 gold. It feels like he just needs one big push. And he could push that Sacred Site timer. He's only got 4 minutes to survive, though. I would love to see him go for more keeps, I have to say. Maybe some stone walls, in fact. The only concern with that was, of course, the siege for the Ottomans is so strong with the bombards. These two bombards should take care of this Elsbeck Palace pretty quickly. Elsbeck Palace does go down now, and now the defense is not all that great for Revain. He's got to be careful. Got so much gold in the bank. I'd love to see him just equalize that economy a little bit. Maybe even just buy the stone for a keep. Trouble is, at this point, with the bombards in good numbers, if he starts to build a keep now, just go down as quickly as it's being built. Adding in some hand cannoneers, the HRE, which will deal pretty good damage to the Sipahi. He's going to try and deny the Sacred Site, but the key bit of unit, key bit of detail, I think it's going to be the Rebaldaquin firing off like an absolute Gatling gun. Here's the big engagement. The Sipahi on the front line with the man-at-arms there for the HRE. Mangonels there for HRE. Just the one, though, for now. And the Janissaries on the back line for the Ottomans. Going to be absolutely unloading on those cavalry. Those knights aren't going to survive for too long with those Janissaries firing off on them. With the Sipahi on the front line. The bombards getting so much splash damage for the Ottomans. It feels like the Ottomans should win this, especially because the knights just aren't getting as much value as they would love. And the Rebaldaquin and two bombards clearing everything up. The HRE running out of steam. All that remains is one solitary mangonel and a couple of hand cannoneers. But the mangonel goes down and the Rebaldaquin still alive, and the two bombards clearing up everything that's behind. And all of a sudden, the Ottomans are dominating. They're going to deactivate that Sacred Site. Only had 2.5 minutes left on it, and unfortunately, that is no longer going to be a win condition. And look at this, Demu coming in with a sneaky keep. It's going to be going over to stone straight away, maybe gold in fact. Either way, it doesn't matter. He's going to get a lot of resources, key resources that, well, unfortunately Revain doesn't secure for himself, and he does deactivate the Sacred Site, and now the Ottomans, their war machine is up and running as the meta speed bonus and the meta attack bonus. Again, a couple of Sipahi just raiding, causing Revain to have to move back. But I gotta say, the siege for the Ottomans has got to be one of the best siege civilizations in the game. Especially late Imperial Age. The Great Bombard just adds so much. He's queuing up 2 more emplacements. For the keep, no doubt. So also getting a keep on that gold, and this is something that Demu is really showcasing, how he's protecting key resources with keeps, right? He wants to make sure he has access to gold. That's what's going to keep the war machine alive. That's what's going to enable him to keep producing units. Now the thing is, Revain does have a lot of units on the field, 52 of them. Could take engagement, but a lot of them are spearmen, which get absolutely chewed alive by the Rebaldaquin. Bombards coming in, taking out infrastructures. One foul swoop. And all of a sudden, things are looking a bit dicey here for the HRE. Does have one keep here on the sacred side, but it won't be a problem with that. Holy moly, those bombards. Sipai coming in with the torch damage, it won't matter. Great shots on them. Those bombards, a sight to behold. Here's a big fight. This could be the end of the game. This could be the big fight we're waiting for. Rebaldaquin on the back line. Sipai going to dive in. The Sipai don't engage with the spearmen though. It's probably good for them. Does have a couple of metas there as well. The Rebaldaquin firing off, and the bombards doing all the great work themselves, to be honest. 4 of them getting a lot of splash damage on those infantry, and look at the massacre. HRE dead infantry bodies. There's no way in, I think. The Rebaldaquin firing off what remains. The spearmen diving in on the meta and the Sipahi, but the Sipahi going to tank, allows the bombards on the back line to get so much damage, and there it is. The units are absolutely perishing. The Rebaldaquin clearing up everything that remains, and the Sipahi now going to have free reign on the HRE base. It's going to deactivate the sacred side, but it won't matter. Revain taps out, and holy moly, the Ottomans, great bombard, stealing the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the castle game. Take care, and see you next time.